It's time to change the oil on my 2007 Honda Aquatrax. I'm going to show you the parts and the process I use to do this. Stick around. I've been changing my own oil on this Aquatrax for at least 8 years. And one of the motivations for that was the dealers were just so expensive. And I figured out you can buy all the parts yourself. The initial purchase is going to be a little bit expensive, but after that, it's very minimal. You're going to spend maybe $50, $60 per ski to keep these maintained every year. So the first piece you're definitely going to need is you're going to need some type of an extraction pump. So it's not like a car engine where you can just drop an oil pan or anything like that or open a plug. You're going to have to extract it out using a pump. Some people like using an electronic pump. I've been okay with this one. It's a pretty cheap pump. You can find this. I'll have links for all of this in the comments and description. So in case you miss any of these parts, I'll have that so you can get the exact kind I got or some recommendations if you'd rather have an electric one. This pump though comes with everything you see there. You're going to have this long tube feeder hose that'll go down into the sections of the motor where you'll be able to extract it. You do have to manually pump this top section right here, and then it starts to extract your oil. The next thing you're going to need some oil. I do like using the Honda oil, Honda brand GN4. That's a 10W40. You can use what you would like as long as it's equivalent. For me though, this is the oil I always go to. It's the oil I always put in there, and I don't have any trouble out of this ski. It's a 2007 and it still runs great. I always like to use a Honda oil filter as well. That is the part number that I use right here. If you can pause there and see that part number. And I use an oil filter wrench to take that off. It's more like a socket, and I use that to put it back on. We'll go through that as we're doing the process. This is a 65 millimeter. See if you can see that. It's a 65 millimeter. And again, I'll have that link in the comments and descriptions if you're wanting to use this same style here. The next piece is I've homemade this hose right here because on the Aquatrax, in order to get water in the back of this ski, you're going to have to go into a connection port. But I do put a quick release here because I have a quick release on my garden hose at home. So I like to have that ready where I can disconnect this as soon as I need to, and we'll go through that process where we need this. First thing you want to do is connect your water hose. That's where I have my quick connect so I can disconnect from the hose quickly if I needed to, and I can switch attachments. So I have that on any kind of hose fitting I use at home. On this end of my hose, there is no fitting. So there's a barb that's coming out the end of the ski right here. And I have at least, I think it's a 3/4 to 1 inch hose. It'll slide over there. You want to make sure that this hose can't pull off. And when you have water pressure to this hose, it's not going to blow off the barb there. Otherwise, you won't have any water cooling down this motor on the ski. On your reverse bucket, you need to just lower your reverse bucket so you can get to that. Do not turn this water hose on right now though. First thing we want to do is turn the ski on and make sure the ski is running, and then we can turn the water on. Turn your water on full pressure. You will get water coming out the back of your ski, and that is normal. So you do actually want to see water coming out there. If you have high enough water pressure, you may even see it coming out of this port. You at least want to feel, do you have any kind of air or a little bit of water dripping out of that? If you do not, it's not going to be cooling the ski properly. You could overheat the ski. We've got plenty of water coming out of the back of the ski. We're going to let this thing run for 5 minutes so we can warm up this oil before we try to extract it. The ski's been running for 5 minutes, and what you want to do is go ahead and turn the water off first. Give that a second to stop dripping off this back section, and then you want to shut the ski down. Now that we've got the engine warmed up, we're ready to extract oil. One of the first spots you're going to extract oil from is where the dipstick goes and the fill for the oil right there. Now if I could show you, the second location is down underneath behind the turbo here is that cap right there. You'll take that cap off and you'll put your oil extractor in there and get a little bit more oil out of that section. Once you've got the extractor hose in there, you do a couple of pumps on this extractor pump and you should start seeing oil fill up down at the bottom. This one has a clear hose so I can see the oil start pulling through this section. You're going to keep constant pressure on that pump until you don't have any more oil coming out of that section. We've gotten as much oil as we can get out of that front port. And I'm going to show you how much we were able to remove. Each one of these notches is 1 quart, or that's about what I equal it out to. So 1, 2, right at 3 quarts were taken out of the front port. I've already got us in this rear port that's just underneath the turbo there. And like I mentioned, go ahead and insert this piece into the tube and start doing a couple pumps on that pump and start extracting as much oil as you can out of that area. We're done extracting from the rear port, and to show you where we kind of ended up now is maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere between 4.5 to 5 quarts, and that's about normal. Don't go by what the manual says as far as putting oil back in. That's total capacity. So if your oil level was correct and you removed this amount, this is the amount that you want to start with putting back into this jet ski. If you put too much in here, you could damage the motor. So just keep a record of how much you took out of there so you know about how much to put back in. I like to start out a little bit lower than what I took out, so then I can add back to it. Of course, you could always extract it back out if you put too much in there, but I like to start maybe about a half quart lower, and then I can add to it as I check the oil on the dipstick. Your next process is to remove the old oil filter. This is where I showed you that 65mm socket style wrench to remove that. Push this all the way down onto that filter, otherwise it won't be gripping the edges there. And then you're just going to take your ratchet and you're just going to try to loosen that up. And I put rags down there where it's going to drip some oil, and then I have some plastic bags on standby where I can throw this filter out right away so it's not dripping all down at the bottom. For any of that remaining oil, you can use your pump to suck up that around that area and down in this port. All right, we're ready to put our new filter on. A couple things you want to double check: that you don't have an O-ring stuck on this and that this flange is clean. Clean up any of that residual oil. If any oil got down in the engine bay, I like to kind of clean that up now just to make sure if I see any oil later, it lets me know I do or don't have an oil leak. So if you leave it down there, you may think to yourself you got an oil leak, but it may just be residual that got down there that dripped from this hole right here, and it's really just from you doing the oil change. On that part number on the oil filter, I like to use the Honda oil filters. This is the oil filter that I use. Sometimes you get these wrapped up and they've got grease on this O-ring here. And if you do, that's good. Just kind of smooth it out. If you get one that does not have grease, or say the grease is dried, clean that area up. And I like to take the new motor oil and go around that seal just to make sure it's going to slide in there nice and evenly and it's not going to pinch this seal. I'm going to put this on hand tight until I can't turn it anymore. And then I'm going to use my socket that I showed you, my oil wrench socket. Fully seat that socket. I'm going to normally do about 1/4 to 1/2 a turn on that. If you get this too tight, you won't be able to get it back off. So just kind of feel for that. Once you kind of feel it tightening up, you pretty much need to stop. We're ready to start putting oil back in, and you're going to fill it back in right there where the oil dipstick goes. Make sure you have a clean funnel, both at the tip and both through the inside. And again, that's the motor oil that I use. It's Honda branded motor oil, the GN4 10W40. This takes, we took about maybe 4.5 to 5 quarts out of this thing. So we're going to put this whole gallon in first and see where we're at. We may run this ski for just a few minutes and see if we need to add more. So we got about 4.5 quarts in there. We put the oil cap back on, and we've put the filter, double checked that the filter's on good, and the rear cap, everything is on. Remember, we're going to start this ski. I'm going to let it run for about 2 minutes, cycle some oil through it, and then we're going to check the oil. Remember to start your ski first, and then you're going to start the water. The ski's been running for 2 minutes, so now I'm going to shut the water off first. Let some of this water stop dripping on the back side of the ski, and then we want to turn this ski off. Once you've warmed that engine up and you're checking the oil on your Honda, they actually recommend not to screw the dipstick back in when you check it. So take it out, clean the dipstick off, and then just set it down in there. Don't actually screw it in. So the couple of times I've checked, we're just a little bit below midway. Maybe you can see that there. I'm just going to add just a little bit more to get us just a tad bit higher, and then we will be done with this oil change. We've added just a little bit more oil in here, so we're probably right at 4 3/4 quarts, and it looks like we're just above middle right there. We're going to run this ski for about 5 more minutes. Remember that you want to turn the ski on first and then turn the water on. Let it run for 5 minutes. We'll shut the water off first, then we'll shut the ski off and check the oil again. All right, the ski's been running for the 5-minute period. We're shutting it back down. Turn the water off first. Now we're going to turn the ski off. So I've checked the oil several times, and I've got it just above midway. Show you that. Remember, don't screw the cap in to check that. It's just above midway on there. If you could see that on the camera, it's just about right there. That's perfect. That's exactly where I like it. Just a little bit higher than midway there. think we've got the oil great. Well, when we get back on the water tomorrow, I'm going to double check this as we ride just to make sure the oil level is exactly where I need it to be. That completes this oil change on a 2007 Honda Aquatrax. Hope this information was useful or helpful for you. And if it was, please subscribe and share. And that's to the point.